I'm joined by John Blake, Director of Sales of Gemini Legal. And the reason why we're having the conversation today is a post that he made on LinkedIn this week. And it's on a hot topic that got a lot of engagement, and we see polarization, people on both sides of it. I want to start by the very first line of the post. And it says, I see posts all over lately saying that college is a waste of time and money. And as someone that didn't finish, I respectfully disagree. And so, John, I wanted to get your take and give you the opportunity to expand on what you were saying a little bit and just shed some more light on your perspective and your experiences.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So it's different strokes for different folks, right? So if somebody was telling me they wanted to be a plumber, I'd say trade school, right? But if you're looking to be at a high level in corporate America, like it or not, right now, that still requires a college degree. And to my point, I was with a couple of different organizations, which I won't mention the name of here, but I got to a point where the next job up for me, going to a director of sales, in order to get the interview, I would have needed a college degree. Now that college degree would have been 25 years old. And it would have been a 4-year college degree that was 25-year-old, where they may not even teach the same stuff anymore in those classes, but they wanted you to have that degree in order to get the interview for that position. So to me, I disagree that in sales, that should be a requirement. But that being said, if somebody told me right now that I want to be a VP of sales someday, but I'm not going to go get a college degree, I tell them it was a mistake.
Yeah. And were those positions within sales at the time when you hit that ceiling where there was a college degree between you and what you wanted? Was that still in sales? Were you in sales at the time?
It was, yeah, it was director of sales position.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And was it generic college degree? Like you need to have a bachelor's, or was there some, but not marketing, not business?
No, it was not which bachelor's, no. And it was enhanced degree preferred.
Okay.
So MBA, JD. I'm in legal sales.
Right. Yeah.
And now I've taught lawyers how to do legal research. I was a Westlaw representative. I learned how to do legal research, and I taught lawyers how to do legal research better. And many of them asked me where I got my JD from. So if you're somebody that wants to get ahead, you can be self-taught. You don't need the college degree for that. But if you want that door open, you better have it to get in the door. It's the key. And
Right.
for all these people that say, no, you don't need that, in certain organizations, you still do. And I had one person say, hey, you're just perpetuating the problem.
Huh.
And I said, well, raging against the machine is not going to help it, right? If my kid tells me I want to be a VP in sales someday, I'm going to say go to college, because that's the best thing for me to tell my kid, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting. And right. So you say like the degree itself doesn't matter, which is interesting to say that the information or knowledge that you have also doesn't matter. So for perspective, I have a college degree, but my degree is in biology. So I can promise you that counts for zero in what I do day to day as a sales professional and consultant. But I check the box, I suppose. But it's interesting.
have that box checked, babe.
Yeah, I guess so. I think that's my dad not wanting me to swing a hammer next to him and not be able to extend my arm at 50 like him. But so I appreciate him for that. But so when you were potentially, you did some school, right? And at that point in time, did you have any knowledge of any professional sales programs, or sorry, academic sales programs? Was that in a thing?
There are not any.
Yeah.
So I was in college, and I'll date myself a little bit, 1986, 1987, dropped out in 1988.
Got it. Okay.
There were no sales majors at any school that I know of. There was business administration and marketing. Nothing to do with sales in either of those.
Yeah.
At least at the time. I was going through classes and going, this has nothing to do with what I want to do with my life. And I knew I wanted to be a salesman. I wasn't somebody who fell into sales. I'm somebody who wanted to be in sales from the time I was probably 10.
How
right?
did you know that? Do you have family, the family background of like other sales professionals, and you liked what their profession looked like? You knew what the earning potential was. How'd you know it?
No, it's kind of weird. When I was a kid, I wanted to make money, and so I picked raspberries in the backyard, put them in the little green baskets that my mom got from the grocery store, and walked down the street and sold them.
That's
If
hustle.
you moved into my neighborhood, I would have been the first person from the neighborhood to knock on your door. I'd tell you, I'm going to be delivering your newspaper for you. And so you're going to get it from me on Sunday or during the week. Which one would you like? Both or just Sunday? And by the way, you'll see me come around and sell candy for baseball, football, basketball. So once a season. Don't buy any don't buy any wrapping paper for Christmas because I come around and I sell that as well. And let me tell you who all your neighbors are. Do you have kids? Oh yeah, so they're going to want to know this person, this person, this person, this. I'd be like the greeting committee. And my father said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know. I like it." He said, "Well, you're going to be a salesperson." I said, "Okay, I'm going to be a salesperson."
Yeah,
And that's what I did from the time that I was like 10 years old. And
that's great.
so I knew I wanted to be a salesperson from the time I was a little kid.
Yeah, that's great. Do you actively, in your current role, do you recruit for salespeople?
Yes. I've
Yeah.
probably hired over the years between Yellow Pages and legal, I've probably hired 200 plus salespeople.
What do you think about? So I've read an article before jumping into this conversation. I don't know what the exact number is, but somewhere around 130, 140 colleges and universities now have, at a bare minimum, a sales minor. Some of them even have a sales major. Are you looking at that when you are recruiting sales professionals now, or what are some of the things you're looking at?
I am not because I I still don't hold those as a top qualification to be in sales. Um, I look at what they've done in the past, and this is not an entry level sales role where I am. We sell to attorneys and law firms. I don't want your first job going in and talking to a managing partner of a law firm. But I want to look and see what type of sales somebody's done. And I want to hire somebody that's used to actually going out in the field and talking to people, right? Which is not everybody, and it's not every sales job.
Right.
Um, and I want to try to find somebody who's had to do something that has some grit to it, stick to itiveness,
Okay.
right? So that's kind of where I look myself, right?
Okay. Got it. Yeah. I think it is interesting. So I'm working for the first time right now with a group up in Canada, and they have a pretty sophisticated program. The organization that I'm working with, they have like a whole practicum thing, which is basically internships, but their internship feeder system is a university in Vancouver that has a professional sales program. And so they are coming in with like basic knowledge of just like what a CRM is or like what the word prospecting means. They have like a vernacular that maybe like I didn't day one as a sales rep. But outside of that, they haven't made a call.
The
So,
other things that I like, so there's a program called Aspireship
okay.
where they're actually teaching sales. And when they get out of there, they have sales knowledge. They've learned objections and responses. They've learned how to write a good email message. I haven't hired anybody from there. I don't hire very many salespeople. This is my first hire that I'm doing, and I've been here since June 1st.
Okay.
So our turnover is like our average tenures, I think 4.5 years.
Wow.
Don't have that 10-month turnover thing that everybody else has. So I'm not reaching out to them, but if I had to hire a bunch of salespeople and I was worried about turnover, that type of place would be very attractive to me, I'd say.
Got
More
it.
attractive than a in-school, associate's degree in a minor in sales. I think that would be more attractive to me for sales.
Yeah.
Now, if I was looking to have a architect, build a house for me, do I want him to have to go on through full architectural school? And, am I worried about it, where he's learned and where he's learned it? Yeah. If I'm going to a doctor, do I want him to have a real doctorate from real schools? Yeah. But sales, not so much.
Yeah. I care about your ability to reach and attain quota and collaborate with your peers and your cross-departmental counterparts. Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got
And so on your post, you also talked about, and you mentioned it earlier in this conversation. So if your kids are asking like to go or not to go, this question of does it make sense to go to college given the rising cost of a semester of school? I think it's like right now the average student graduates with $30,000 worth of debt. 1.7 trillion is the total, right? Like we have these exorbitant numbers that are starting to build up, and this question of to go or not to go, and you having a real life experience of barriers to ultimately achieving the roles that you're going for. So if your kids are asking whether they should go or not go, your answer is definitively yes. Is that correct?
Depending on what they want to do, right? So
Okay.
I do have a daughter that did not go. She runs an online crystals business called Cricket's Crystals. So it's a plug.
Yeah, there.
Um, but yeah, cricketscrystals.com, right? But does she need a college degree to run an online crystals business? No. So am I going to push her to go and finish college now? No, right? But I have one son who wants to be an engineer, and I have one son that wants to be in computer science and computer programmer. Do I think they should go to school? Yeah, I think they should go to college. I'm going to tell them, yes, go to college, right? Do I think they need a full 4 year at UC school or Stanford? Or I think 2 years in a community college and transfer is a super smart thing these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's changed a lot. When I was going to college, the community colleges were junk. Nobody went there. If you had a degree from there, you'd almost get thrown out of an interview. It wasn't the same as it is now. It wasn't a gateway into a 4 year school, which is the way I see it now. It's very much changed.
Yeah. I think it's extremely interesting. And I think especially given what we just went through in 2020, I think undergraduate enrollment within the US dropped by like 400,000. Community college enrollment, which my initial assumption was, okay, they're not going to NYU or whatever because they don't want to pay $70,000 to take classes online, right? But community college enrollment dropped too by like 10% or something like that. So I think it's interesting to think about now we have virtual learning taking place, this super high dollar value placed on it. I think it's making people rethink, how do I actually want to manage these 4 years? And I think we're being way more honest about the actual return on investment, which I
Yes.
love that conversation is getting pulled earlier and earlier. Like when I was 17 years old, right, which is when you make your decision, uh,
Yep.
neither one of my parents went to college. So they can't educate me from experience, like, and try to guide you down a path of like, here's where you should go. It was just, you should go and you should go to the best school possible. That was it. That was the instruction you receive, with no knowledge of what, if I had made the decision to go private or something, what am I going to do with 150,000 in debt?
Right.
Yeah.
I had the same thing. My father wasn't gonna. My father had 6 kids. We didn't come from money. I was paying my own, right?
Yeah.
And when I wasn't getting value out of it, I was out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's an interesting debate that I think is going to continue, especially if specifically undergrad, if the price of undergraduate enrollment continues to increase and we don't see wages increase along with it, and there is a soft entry point like the IBMs of the world running these programs where they're taking recent college grads and I don't want to misbrand them, but basically apprenticeship programs to help train and give them certain skills, and that there is a path, to high earning potential. I think I'd like to see, capitalism take hold and that right size the cost of undergraduate tuition instead of seeing it on this never-ending exponential growth rate. Yeah.
And also, even for computer programming, there's now, um, if you want to be a builder for games, there's now programs that could be going for 9 months that'll teach somebody how to do the programming specifically for games. And they have companies that they're working with that at the end of those 9 months, they're placing you.
Yeah.
They have placement programs afterwards. Is that going to stop some of the kids that were going to go into computer science from going to Berkeley? I hope so, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's much more worthwhile if that's what you want to do, right? But depends
I
on what
know.
I still think it depends on what you do. Different strokes for different folks. But is college super important for everybody? No. Would it have made a difference in my career trajectory? Absolutely, it would have. And I think it would, for people to say that, uh, you know, college should, the need for a college degree should go away. You can say that, but when it comes to your kid, what are you going to tell them?
That's the question.
Right?
That is the question.
Until
Exactly.
that changes, I'm not going to be the one to change it because I'm not going to put my kid in a bad position, right?
Yeah.
But until that changes, I don't think this changes.
I'm with you. Let's leave it there. Thanks again, John. Really appreciate you coming on and talking about the topic. And if anybody wants to continue the conversation, you reach out to John Blake directly on his LinkedIn. Follow him. Great posts all the time. And thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.